So I recently finished Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Finally, I've been meaning to read this book for yonks, and it left me with quite a lot of thoughts. The book that was called to my mind the most while reading this book was not Jane Eyre or even Sarah Waters, even though the similarities are very clear between those things. It was actually Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Now, admittedly, I've only seen the movie Gone Girl, directed by David Fincher, a number of times. However, the screenplay to that movie was written by Gillian Flynn herself. So I feel like I can safely assume that the themes and the general tone of the novel have remained intact in the film. Now, I will put a spoiler warning here. I feel like I can't really fully explore the parallels between Rebecca and Gone Girl without spoiling the plots to both of those stories. So if you don't want to be spoiled for either of those stories, just don't keep watching. So the first thing that stood out to me is the idea of perspective, or who gets to have a perspective and who gets to be understood from their own interpretation or lack thereof, who doesn't get to tell their own story. And it's very clear in Rebecca who doesn't get to tell their story, and it is Rebecca. She is a ghost, almost a myth, even though she is the most vibrant character in the novel and the one that is left lingering in your brain long after you've read the book. She doesn't ever get to tell her own story. We never hear who Rebecca is as she self-identifies. We only hear about her from other people's interpretations. And I found that really interesting. We really don't know who she is. We only get the side of the story from her husband and from the workers at Manderley. And I think Daphne du Maurier is making a real conscious point there about who gets to have their stories told. To contrast that with Gone Girl, Amy Dunn is 100% in control of the narrative, not only in the first section of the story where she is writing these fabricated diary entries that are loosely based on the truth but are intentionally directing people to a misunderstanding of the circumstances, to the very end of the story where she is still controlling the narrative between her and Nick Dunn. To me, it really feels like Amy Dunn puts into words the feelings about her marriage, about her standing in society, that Rebecca never got to tell. Another similar parallel would be the idea of women having to lose their identity in exchange for being loved, or at least be seen as being valuable and lovable in society. In Gone Girl, there's that infamous cool girl speech where Amy Dunn talks about how in order to be loved and be in a relationship, you have to change the shape of yourself and who you are to fit the man. And in Rebecca, the heroine, the point of view character who we stay with through the entire story, she doesn't even get a name. She's unnamed the entire time. She is superseded by Rebecca in every sense. And anytime the heroine in this book, who is rather passive for the majority of the time, anytime she makes a bold decision, she A, mirrors Rebecca, and B, it gets squashed down incredibly quickly. For example, with when she wears the white dress to the fancy dress party at the ball, she is immediately told to go upstairs and change. I think both Rebecca and Gone Girl explore this idea that for a lot of women it feels like you have two choices. Either you lose parts of yourself or even your entire self to whatever is dictated to you that you need to be, or you are the villain and you are the evil mastermind in the way of Rebecca or Amy Dunn. There is this strong parallel between when women take agency over their own lives, it is seen as inherently evil. Another interesting parallel is the husband killing his wife. So obviously in Rebecca, the husband does kill Rebecca. It is revealed that Mr. De Winter killed her. And when it is revealed, it's done in an incredibly sympathetic way towards Mr. De Winter and his actions and how he felt and why he did a horrific crime. Rebecca is villainized to such an extreme extent that it's almost to the point of blaming her for her own murder, saying that she orchestrated, she wanted it to happen, she planned it and planned for everything after her murder to happen too. And that is such a strong parallel to Gone Girl, where Amy Dunn actually does plan her own murder. I also think it's interesting examining the meta context around each of these novels. So Rebecca, when it was originally published, was marketed as a romance, which if you read it, I mean, Oh, it doesn't seem like a romance at all as how we understand the genre now. And Gone Girl was obviously predominantly marketed as a mystery thriller. I think Gone Girl's marketing is far more truthful to the actual novel than Rebecca's, but they're both kind of pigeonholed as genre fiction, and it's rather dismissive to the literary and analytical value of each of the works. I mean, there's a reason why Gone Girl ignited a cultural spark for many years. In the back of my copy of Rebecca, there's an afterword written by Sally Bowman, and she has this line that says, "Rebecca has made a transition rare in popular fiction. It has passed from bestseller to cult novel to cultural classic status." And I feel like Gone Girl might be on a very similar trajectory. I think it will be regarded as far more than just, a bestseller in the coming decades. I honestly feel like my analytical skills fall short here, but between really examining the parallels between Amy Dunn and Rebecca and myth and legend and fabrication and stories and perspectives, I'm not a lit major. I don't really know how to do it very well. I feel like sometimes I will have the beginnings of an interesting thought that if I could maybe just complete it, it would be really insightful, but I never quite get there. So this video is mostly just about parallels that stood out to me rather than any sort of satisfying conclusion about what those parallels mean. Let me know what you think. Do you see the parallels that I see between Rebecca and Gone Girl?